Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to CoachX Live with the Institute of Coaching. My name is Jeffrey Hull. I am the Executive Director of the Institute of Coaching, and I want to welcome you here from around the world, wherever you're coming in from. Please take a minute to sign in on the chat, which I'm not seeing. Why am I not seeing the chat? Hopefully I will see it soon. Anyway, sign in, say hello. We love to see where people are coming in from around the world. I am super excited to be here live with one of our keynote speakers at our upcoming Harvard Medical School sponsored Coaching in Leadership and Healthcare Conference in Boston on May 3rd and 4th, Soren Gordhamer. And before I jump into a little background with Soren and a dialogue with Soren, I just want to remind all of you that this is the last couple of weeks for you to register to be with us live in Boston. We're almost sold out. We're super excited. It's going to be the first time that we've been together live since 2019. And we have an incredible lineup. And Amy Edmondson is going to be with us. Marty Seligman is going to be with us. Chip Conley is going to be with us. The list is amazing. And Soren Gordhamer, who is in the house with me today, is going to be with us. And the theme of the conference is wisdom. And Soren is really one of the world's renowned experts, if there's such a thing as an expert in wisdom. I'm not sure if I want to go that far. But for those of you that are not familiar with Soren, let me just tell you a little bit about his background. You may have heard of the program that he created that's coming up soon in, I think, a couple of weeks on the West Coast. But Soren is responsible for exploring, developing, writing, and teaching and speaking about the application of ancient wisdom in modern life. And he founded and hosts one of the world's largest conferences held, as I just said, on the West Coast in Silicon Valley called the Wisdom 2.0 Conference, which brings together technology leaders along with teachers from wisdom traditions to explore how we can live mindfully and wisely in modern life and engage the great technologies of our age in ways that benefit us, benefit society, and our world. So we're really looking at the intersection between technology of today and perhaps some of the wisdom technologies from the perennial thousands of years of the West and indigenous wisdom. He's also the founder and the host of the Wisdom and AI Summit, a recent addition. Now that AI is obviously exploding around the world as something that we all have to look at, explore, learn about, hopefully benefit from. And he's the co-founder and general partner of a private equity firm called Wisdom Adventures. So I am thrilled to have you here with me today, Soren. And I think probably the best place to get started is to ask you how Wisdom 2.0 came about.
Well, sure. And thank you for that lovely introduction, Jeff. And super, super excited to see anybody and everybody who can make it in Boston in just a few weeks. So I have a certain joy and love for in-person events and being able to actually see people's faces and connect with people. And so thank you for the work that you do. And thank you for all the efforts that go into gathering people in person. So I just deep bow to all you and your team for the hard work that it takes, and really looking forward to seeing you and meeting you soon, and everyone else who can make it. So I kind of got an insight 15, 20 years ago where I sensed the external technologies of our age, all the gadgets and phones and websites and all the things. There was almost no doubt that those were going to continue to advance and get cooler and niftier and better. The real question was whether the inner technologies, awareness, wisdom, compassion, patience, would those rise as this rised, or would this squash the inner world? Like we'd lose complete access to our inner life. I was like, that's really the question that we need to explore as a society. It's, of course, the external technologies are going to advance. Are we as humans going to advance so that we can live in a really thoughtful, wise way? I knew I did not have the answers to that question. And I knew that no one really had the answers to that question. And it would take bringing together some of the top leaders in technology with some of the top leaders in the inner domain and get together and explore, how do we do this as a society? How do we think through this? For those of us who want, our children and nieces and nephews and grandchildren, whatever, and to be able to have a dinner and be able to talk to another human being and be able to have empathy, compassion, like there's these human skills that let's not forget about as all these amazing new gadgets and VR headsets and AI and all these things happen, that there's this innate wisdom. And I was worried that we would lose that. And so the conference kind of was a birthing of an effort to say, this matters and we need to talk about it.
Well, yeah. And was it a thoughtful part was it specific on your part to bring it into the Silicon Valley environment? Like, because that's where a lot of these technologies are born, but it's not necessarily where the wisdom traditions come from.
Not at all. Not at all. And that's kind of a bit of the dichotomy. Was I knew in some ways, it's interesting. In the past, the religious leaders were kind of the people that everybody looked to for guidance and like direction. And for better or worse, in our age today, while we do have important religious leaders, who do we look to? It's kind of like the gods. The gods are often the business people and the tech people who are creating this new reality for us.
Right.
And so we have to involve them, or at least try to involve them, because that's who people listen to. So if I can get some of these leaders of the tech industry talking about the importance of mindfulness and meditation and nature, and like that actually goes a really, really long way. So that was part of my idea, was like, if I can get them on board with this conversation, maybe their technologies will be a little more thoughtful, and then maybe the people will listen to them who might not listen to somebody in a religious setting.
Say more about that, because I'm curious. In our bifurcated, highly politicized culture and 24-hour media, we tend to see Mark Zuckerberg, for example, on the Hill, or Elon Musk or something like that, and then we sort of then build this broad brush stereotype of what the tech types look like and sound like. And so I'm curious, what has been your experience when you bring some of these bigger life questions to these folks, really about what stirs their hearts, what connects them to their work, to their creativity, what is their vision, even before you get to things like wisdom. Like, what have you found when you brought those bigger questions to those folks?
So just like any profession, you get all types. It's like if you meet 100 doctors, each doctor is going to have his or her their own personality, and some are going to be chill and some are not going to be chill. And, so there is the tech industry, I think, is interesting in that there's not one, particular type. However, there are certain kind of qualities, and there's a bit of like this arrogance of like, we can change the world. We are going to create the world that is going to, and there's a competitiveness and like a male bravado-ness that can direct a lot of their attention. But I think what happens over time is that people have children and people grow up and people make mistakes, and then they get a little bit humbled. And then we would
hope so.
Not every leader does, but a lot of leaders do. And they then begin to explore their inner life. And they do that in all kinds of different ways. And so when I approach them and I say, we're doing this event, and part of the intention of this event is to help create a better world, a more thoughtful world, a more wise world, a more conscious world. Not everybody says yes, but more than I thought say, yes, I want to join. So we've had the founders of, Facebook and Twitter and eBay and PayPal. And last year, Sam Altman joined us from OpenAI. And I had pinged him and said, do you want to talk about consciousness and AI with this Jack Horn? And he's like, absolutely. I would love to. That would be great. I'd be honored, and so, that energy, there's that energy there. Now, where the friction hits sometimes is running these large corporate entities that need to make a living or need to make income and need to satisfy their stakeholders and their board members and everybody. How do you bring wisdom and compassion and kind of heartfulness within a capitalist system that sometimes doesn't really care about that as much? And so
it's almost a contradiction to a certain extent, right?
Almost a contradiction. Yeah. And so, if you can make that ad a little more appealing, if you can make that thing a little more appealing, like I think Netflix, what gives us 4 seconds now when one video ends before they autoplay the next video in a series. And it's like, it's shorter and shorter because they don't want us to leave, right? It's like, I got their attention. How do we keep their attention? Versus like a note that says, Jeff, you've been watching Netflix for about 2 hours. Maybe you should go for a walk. Maybe you should go meditate, or,
that would be a change.
Imagine the platforms like coming in to kind of help us live a more quality life. And it's hard because that's not how they're built. They're built to keep attention, hold attention, and kind of, either monetize through subscriptions or monetize through ads. And I think, one of the big challenges of our society is how do we rethink this model? Like, there's definitely things about capitalism I think wonderful and love. And there's also things that, particularly as the power of AI gets stronger and stronger, I think we need to relook at how society works. Like the version of TikTok, that we use in the US, the Chinese don't let that in their country. Like, that's not what they use. They don't think it's healthy for their kids. So they have a different, version of what they allow. And I think that the US needs to, and other European nations and democracies need to look at what really makes sense. What are we cultivating? And what are the guardrails that we need to set aside? Because I think it's a little much to ask for the companies to set those guardrails themselves.
And when you bring these leaders together, so I'm envisioning Jack Kornfield sitting across from, the head of the AI. I'm forgetting his name, but
Sam Altman.
Yeah, I mean, is there a wisdom that emerges from these leaders because they're drawn to this subject?
Yeah.
And do they want to engage in the perennial questions of what,
Yes.
why are they doing what they're doing? Like, what is their impact? What is their legacy?
Yeah. Yeah. So again, there's certain ones that aren't, that's not what they want to win and destroy and kill and, be the top of the mountain. And that's just how they're built, and that's fine. And that is what that is. But I would say the majority of the ones that I'm in touch with are, at the end of the day, when they're on their deathbed, they want to really feel like they made a positive contribution, and that they feel that there's like a new consciousness that's emerging in our world today, and that AI can be something that helps people. It can give like a tutor to every child for pennies a day that otherwise wouldn't have a brilliant tutor, or it can look at medical issues, and it can process like scans and information in ways that we can't today, and maybe discover new drugs and new approaches. So most of them actually feel that the technology that they're creating will create a better world, and they want that to happen. Now, again, there's frictions that happen, of course, too, because
I was going to say, do you come away feeling that way when you watch and participate in these dialogues?
Yeah, I feel that the intention is very the intention is very good. Okay. I do feel like the intention from the people that I know in those domains, their intention is really strong. Now, later on, a couple of years from now, when things grow and there's difficult decisions, how do you keep those ethics and that heartfulness and those quality of the values? I don't know, Jeff. I wish there was a better system in place. I think Europe might have better systems in place. The US is a little bit like, winner takes all. Like we want to see the innovations, so we just kind of let them do whatever they want to do. But I think this is where government has to step in, because otherwise, if you can create an AI that's super addictive and can kind of keep people on a screen for 8 hours a day, how do you convince your board that you shouldn't do that? like it's hard to go against that system. And so I think that's where the difficulty lies is, Meta had reported.
It brings up the bigger questions of what is the purpose of this organization and how are they impacting their world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm curious where you come into the role of the coach, because, we're a coaching institute, and we're going to be coming all together to talk about how we can bring wisdom into our dialogues with our clients. Yeah. And just as you said that, I thought to myself, well, in the room, the senior board, the senior executives, there are leaders who have executive coaches who are probably bringing big questions to them. What do you want your legacy to be? What is the value that you want to bring to this organization? What are your values as a leader? And what are your thoughts on the role that coaching can play in this space?
Well, I think there's several pieces, and I should just mention that all the AI leaders I know have numerous coaches supporting them,
Right.
because they see the importance of that, and they know that their own little world needs reflection and needs clarity from a mirror of someone else who's less
Right.
attached and less immersed. And when they can talk to people and get a reflection, they then see their own process more clearly. And doing that just by themselves is very, very difficult, particularly as many of the things they're juggling. And
Yeah.
so almost all the leaders I know have multiple coaches for sometimes different expertises. Some is more in the personal, some's more in the business strategy. But they all have multiple coaches that they rave about, and the importance of being able to, really have a clear mirror from somebody who can say, this is what I hear you saying, and have you thought about this question, and how would you? And it's like, in some ways, I think the best coach kind of helps somebody bring about their own innate wisdom and their own innate clarity that's there. It just gets kind of muddled and lost through all the different things that we have going on. And I think, one of the big things I think that's happening, as we were talking about before, is this culture is going through a massive shift. And I think we're just beginning that massive shift. And AI is going to bring a lot of beautiful things and a lot of really challenging things. And I think leaders right now are wondering how we pivot and how we shift, and whether we go forward or sideways or backwards. And I think are in desperate need of support and coaching to find that creative resilience that looks at the current situations and can really thoughtfully engage and pivot if need to, but find their own particular position, whether they're an individual or working for a large company, to kind of navigate this new wave that's emerging in our time. And I think there's a lot of support that's really needed in order to make sure that both we personally and then our companies are very thoughtfully aligned with kind of new opportunities I think that this chapter will present.
So how do you define wisdom in this context?
We did this one time. I'm going to answer that question, but one time at a conference, we took a video crew around and we asked all these like amazing wisdom teachers, like the Dalai Lama's chief translator, and Buddhist teachers and Christian different people. Like, so you're at the Wisdom 2.0 conference. What is wisdom? And you can kind of see them freeze up a little bit.
I'm sure it's not immediately obvious.
And to me, what it, and I don't know if this is my perfect answer, but this is the answer that I kind of come to is, there'll be a moment that we all face, likely unless we die kind of instantly, where we're on our deathbed, and there'll be certain things that matter to us more at that moment, right? And my guess is our title at a moment of our deathbed, and how our stocks did, and a lot of other things. How many Instagram followers?
The number of letters after your name, yes.
The number of letters. It might matter a little, but on the matter level, it's probably less, right?
Yeah.
Was I a good, decent friend? Was I there for the friends in my life, or for the family? Did I make the world a little better place than how I found it? And so for me, wisdom is living that now, right? Like living those things that really, really matter now. And when I attune to that, when I go into the grocery store, for example, like I'm really present with that person at the cashier office, at the cashier, because I want to have a positive impact on the world, and each moment matters, and I don't want to miss a moment. And there's a beautiful connection right there. And I don't want to miss that. Versus if I get too lost in my own story, I'm just moving fast and forward, and I'm going to accomplish this. I'm going to do this other big thing. And and there's these little beautiful moments. Mother Teresa said, we don't do great things. We do small things with great love. And to me, that's a very wise approach. Let's do, I think I got that quote right. Let's do small things with great love. And that's a daily practice, whether that's right here, or that's with my partner, that's with walking down the street, is can we kind of embody a presence and an openness and a clarity and a love. And I get the sense that those are the things that matter. And it doesn't mean we can't have many letters after our name and run big companies and have all kinds of fame, if that's kind of the dance. It's just we do that through this kind of heartfulness. And when I first met you, I felt that deeply. I was like, I think I had read a little bit of your bio, and I didn't know who I was going to meet. And I met you. I was like, I could feel this like care and love and joy. I was like, oh, I like him. and to me, that's really the heart of it. And the rest of it's fine. We all have our own path, and whether that path is within a corporate structure and accomplishment, or whether that's path in a more simple life, like we all have our paths. And yet, are we kind of embodying and living and being kind of what really matters? And that to me is what gets me excited.
And what I love about what you're sharing, Soren, is that it's incredibly simple and grounded and reachable, accessible to all of us. Yeah. Right? I mean, there's a way, I think, in which we have a tendency in our culture to think of words like wisdom as these big philosophical, like, when I get to be 70 and I have written enough books or read enough books or whatever, then maybe I can sit back and get a pipe and start thinking about becoming wise, right?
Yeah.
And what you're saying is that it's actually so much simpler, and it's right there, and it's really available to us all the time. The word you used was embody, and I think that's a really powerful word, because it's not just from the neck up. It's about who you are in the moment, and being compassionate, being kind, being intentional. And what feels really relevant to me about that in terms of coaching is that, and you hinted at this, and I want you to say more about it, but I think it is the coaches, when they're working with the leaders, whether it's the tech leaders or whoever, it's in those coaching engagements that it's not that difficult to get the leader to stop, to breathe, to reflect, and to ground and sort of remember. I sometimes, if the word remember comes to me, it's like, why did you want to do this? What is your purpose? What are you trying? We know you need to get rich. That's fine. We're not judging it, but who do you really care about? What do you
and maybe that actually increases your chances of success, which I think is far out, versus like, oh, you have to be this way and hopefully you'll still be successful. But in my view, the most heartful people I know, the most visionary people I know, the most present people I know, I actually think it increases their chances because they're clearer and they're more focused, and they have less turbulence in their mind and heart because they're doing less unskillful things. And so there's just more energy to give to the world. And so I think that's the notion I would like to bring, which is just like this work that we do, whether you're working, and I think wisdom is in part relational. And I think, whether that relationship with the coach, and the coach can mirror, or like the in-person events that we both do and love, you come together, you see people, you meet people, you feel a part of this. And I know not everybody can travel and do all those things, but there's a relational aspect, I think, to life that's so important. And I hope we don't lose this, like in all of our cool, VR headsets and all the stuff that we create, there's something deeply profound about another human being. And I think the capacity of a coach or a friend or whoever that is to help us see through whatever is blocking, it's like all this stuff and all these stories from our past and all these shoulds and all these past pains and, oh, I can't do this or I should do that. And like, how do we clear that? And so we actually can see, oh, this is the right path. And I think anything that we can do, whether that's both community, coaches, support, to allow that opening, I think that's kind of what we're here for, isn't it? Like, we're here to be as clear as possible and engaged as possible, and to feel like we came to Earth for a purpose and we want to live that purpose. And let's kind of get rid of whatever the stories are or whatever the holdups are for allowing that to happen. And I think that's how the world changes. Like, we can elect this new president or that new prime minister or this kind of person, and it's wonderful. I vote, all that stuff. I don't think that's where it happens. I think it happens individuals deciding that they're going to do the hard work of looking clearly at what blocks their heart and what blocks their life, and making decisions to follow in a different way. And I think the work that you all do and others do to coach and support people in getting that clarity and really naming what you stand for, I think is super powerful.
No, I totally agree with you. And I'm curious, circling back to Wisdom 2.0, and I know it's coming up for you next week or something soon,
week,
right?
next Thursday.
Yeah. And how many people will you be bringing together?
There's about 700 to 800 people.
So it's a large community gathering. and you're going to have wisdom tradition teachers and tech executives and folks that work in all of those. What is your hope for this kind of gathering? Do you think it can really make a difference?
I see a lot of this as planting seeds. And I think what we're trying to do is do that. And sometimes those seeds will grow fast, and sometimes those seeds grow not so fast. but I'd like them to grow faster. But I think our event that we're doing in Boston, or with Entrepreneur in San Francisco, I think they all have the same intention, which is just like, how do we support more people connecting to what really matters and bringing that out into the world in whatever way they're called to bring out into that world. And that could be, you decide you want to be a coach. I want to help. I know so many people who worked in the corporate world, like, I actually feel like I want to be a coach. I want to support
a lot of us. I used to be in the corporate world myself.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. And other people, like, I want to go in the corporate world. I want to build a new company, or I want to do this. And it's like, it's all beautiful. And the real question is, are we guided by something that is aligned with our values? And I think that's what we're all doing, is we're gathering people together to see if we can remember, what are those values that really matter to us, and how do we more fully live them in our life? And that's, I don't know of a better thing to do right now. If there was a better thing to do, I would try to do it.
You only have one life, right?
Yeah, I don't actually know of a better thing to do than to gather people with those deep questions, not telling people what to do, but reminding people of what's possible and what we can co-create together as a world. I think we just can't leave it up to the politicians and be like, well, they'll figure it out. I do think the time calls for all of us to be a little more active and come together in a certain way. So, I think we all co-create this world, Jeff. Like, we're all, do our little small parts. None of us can take credit for anything in some ways.
Well, some of you, like yourself, are doing a bigger part by bringing together a large gathering of people and engaging in these bigger questions. So, there are some folks like yourself who are committed to taking a bigger step.
Maybe, but I would argue that grandmother that takes care of the granddaughter and loves that daughter, the granddaughter, and gives that, child or that person or that support, it's just as, that's beautiful, right? That one life that they're helping, and that then helps the world. So I'm happy to do the role that I do, but I also see that there's every day, this is an amazing thing. We have 8 or 9 billion people on the planet, and every day people wake up and they love another person. Amidst all the war that's going on and this killing, the vast majority of the population wakes up and they love other people. And that somehow that keeps our world going. Our world mainly
I was going to say, I think it's the only thing that's keeping us surviving. that does still, it still exists. So we're
maybe you just love an animal, but you love something, right? Something you love. Right. And that, can we just keep, I like to say it's better to light a candle than complain about the darkness. And the darkness exists, and tragedy and difficulty exists. And it's like, how do we each day light a candle? And, stopping and talking to that person in the street, or just helping out that friend, all these little things, to me, that's where the real sweetness is.
No, I love that, because to me, it is also about unveiling the mask of fear.
Yeah.
That is really separating us. Because well, I think a lot of us are naturally drawn to connection and to loving each other, but we need to feel safe. And in the world, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of things that are distracting us that bring up more anxiety. And so when we can come together in these gatherings, like the one we're going to be having in a couple of weeks, the one you're holding, to remember we're all in this together. And to make us to really look at each other, whether it's through the screen or in real life, and say, we're all in this one single little dirt ball called Earth, guys.
Stardust.
We got it.
One of the things I do at the conference sometimes, I don't know if I'll do it this year, but I walk out and I'm like, you made it. You dressed in the right, perfect clothes. The clothes you chose were just right. You're sitting next to just the right person, like giving people permission to just, like, you're okay. Like, who you are is beautiful. And it doesn't mean you don't have your stuff and your triggers and your, the closet inner closets that need to be cleared out. So it's not that there isn't a certain little work to do, but that who we are deep down, and true of every one of us, is this beautiful being. And if you look at pictures of most kids when they're younger, like they're beaming. They're not beaming because they accomplished anything. They're beaming because they're just kind of beaming, a life beaming. And Jeff,
Beautiful.
I feel that a lot with you. And if we could kind of support that in the world, what a great honor.
We will all bring our little loving child to the conference in Boston. And that was a beautiful, beautiful way to end. Our time has flown. And unfortunately, I, for some reason, cannot see my chat. So I just want to apologize. I would have said hello to many people that are joining us, but for some reason, chat didn't show up for me. But we will keep it on LinkedIn Live. So we'll have an opportunity on the LinkedIn
there's a few comments.
site.
Do you see the comments, Jeff? Sorry,
I can't. I don't know why I can't, but
oh, okay.
I'll see them on the.
A lot of people say hello. A lot of people say
good. Well, hello, everyone. And I apologize. For some reason, it's not showing up on my screen this time. Okay. But I hope we'll see many of you in Boston. If you haven't signed up yet, instituteofcoaching.org, go to our website. There are still seats available at the conference. Soren will be there to continue this conversation. And I just want to thank you, Soren, for taking time. I know you are gearing up for Wisdom 2.0. I hope it is a superly wonderful gathering. I'm sure it will be. And you will bring your wisdom to them, to that conference, and then to us. And I look forward to being with you very soon.
Thank you.